All right, guys. Well, I had to double check, but it is now official that Trev Alberts, the former AD and All-American out of Nebraska, will now be the athletic director at Texas A&M. Took about a month since Ross Bjork took the job at Ohio State for this committee that included Joni Taylor, Jim Schlossnagle, R.C. Slocum, and others to land on the guy that they thought could lead them into the future of college athletics, which now includes name, image, and likeness. And I can only imagine that was in the forefront of their decision, which evidently was the case based on statements that President Welsh has put out since then. But Trev Alberts, guys, that's the man. That's the man that's going to lead us into the future. I want to know how you guys feel about it, but in this video, I want to talk about exactly who Trev Alberts is, what his history is, what he's done as an athletic director at the Power 5 school that is Nebraska, and at the end, I want to give you my thoughts on what he might be able to do at Texas A&M. AD at A&M has been a tough job to keep. It's been a revolving door for a few years now, and we're really hoping to land on some stability here. And we'll see if Trev Alberts is the right guy for the job. I'll tell you that at the end of this video. I want to break down the cold, hard facts first. But guys, before we get into it, if you guys could like and subscribe, that would help me greatly. I'm trying to grow this thing throughout the offseason. By the time we get to the regular season, I want to grow this base of Aggie fans and fanatics and college football fans, even if you're not an Aggie, because the discussion in the comments on these videos has been nothing short of amazing. You guys have been awesome. So hopefully we can keep that up. If you guys could join, like, and subscribe, that would help me so much. So let's get into it, man. Trev Alberts is the guy. All right, so like I said, this was a delayed video, if you will. It was supposed to come out this morning, but it took a while for this thing to become officially confirmed. The Nebraska fans wanted to believe that their beloved Trev Alberts wasn't going to leave the program, understandably so. If you didn't know, Nebraska's his alma mater. He played linebacker there in the early 90s. He was an All-American his last year there. Oh, and he won the Butkus as a Cornhusker. So this guy is a Cornhusker legend. And once again, A&M is able to pluck a guy from his alma mater, much like Colin Klein. So it's a testament to the vision of A&M, maybe the pocketbook, maybe everything that is A&M. It all goes into it. So, you know, the opposition will tell you that the oil money checks cash or whatever. That's part of it, but A&M has a lot to offer. So let's get into this first little nugget here. President Mark Welsh put out a statement about why he was selected, or talking about the selection of Trev Alberts, and I'll just read it to you. With Trev's expertise, the Aggies are poised to not only excel on the fields, track, and courts, but also successfully navigate the multifaceted intersection of sports, commerce, and student-athlete empowerment. He has a profound understanding of the intricate business of athletics and the evolving landscape of collegiate athletics, particularly in the realm of name, image, and likeness. Big one. I can't imagine a better individual to lead the Aggie athletics program into the future. And it's interesting that he brings up NIL, because that must have been stuff that was revealed behind the scenes. And I want to preface everything with this. A lot of the AD's doings happen behind the scenes. Conversations we'll never know about. Handshakes that we'll never know happened. A lot of stuff is going to be happening behind closed doors. So we're not going to really know the full picture of how he's doing or what the doings of the AD are until we see long-term results. So I'll preface everything by saying, wait and see. You love him, you gotta wait. You hate him, you hate the move, you hate the hire, I encourage you to give it some time. Either way, guys, this is going to take time for things to build. But it's interesting that he brings up NIL, because in the research I did about Trev Alberts, I'm going to call him Trev, it's a cool name. NIL wasn't really a highlight. It's a new aspect. So a lot of that stuff will be behind the scenes stuff and stuff that comes to the forefront as results. So it's really cool to hear Welsh highlight this attribute of him, because the stuff I'm going to bring up isn't even related to NIL. But back to Trev, yes, we're in wait and see mode. But I believe that his time at Nebraska is potentially underrated based on the success of Nebraska's football performance. Nebraska's been a bad football program, but I would argue that Trev left Nebraska in a better place than he found it. When he arrived, obviously Scott Frost was the man at the helm, and we all saw from afar how that ship sunk. It was not pretty. I don't think anybody in the college football landscape wanted to see it. I think everybody respects a coach going back to his alma mater and potentially leading them to the promised land. That's like the dream. That's what it's all about. That's just a really cool story. And it unfortunately didn't work out for Scott Frost. So one of the decisions that Alberts made was getting rid of Scott Frost. And you can argue whether or not that was a tough decision. It was tough because he was a Nebraska legend, but it was easy because the football program was so bad and seemingly had no future under Scott Frost, which was just the unfortunate truth. Trev made the decision. It is what it is. I don't know if you can really toot his horn too much. That was kind of the move that had to happen, but it was a move nonetheless. Trev Alberts was also a Nebraska man, as I mentioned. He was born in Iowa, played linebacker at Nebraska, unanimous All-American Butkus, had a short NFL career, worked at ESPN as a broadcaster for a few years. He was unfortunately not very popular as a broadcaster, according to many, but maybe that wasn't his calling. Maybe he wasn't the guy to articulate the game as well as he can manage the game, because he had some success in Nebraska, aside from the ousting of Scott Frost and the hiring of Matt Rule, which many looked at as a very, very positive hire for Nebraska, and it seems to be paying dividends in recruiting. If you remember, Dylan Raiola was a commit to Georgia for a long time, flipped to Nebraska. Nebraska had a top 20 recruiting class this last cycle, which is pretty dang good considering their lack of recent success. He also initiated Volleyball Day. You guys remember Volleyball Day, right? He organized an event for the women's volleyball team in Nebraska Memorial Stadium, their football stadium, I forget the exact name, in which around 96,000 fans attended. The most attended women's sporting event in the world of all time, which is pretty cool feat. It's pretty cool to get that organized and to get that set up and to put it into action and execute. That's pretty cool. That's a cool feather in your cap as the AD to put that together. Additionally, he initiated a $450 million refurbishment plan of the stadium. I believe they're going to redo one of the end zones. That's going to happen at the end of this season. Of course, the AD is a big player in that. At Texas A&M, we're hoping for some renovations to the basketball and baseball facilities, particularly the stadiums. We'll see what happens there. This thing is just getting started, but he got it done at Nebraska, so maybe he can get it done here. His first job, he was the AD at Nebraska at Omaha. Very interesting story about what happened there. I'll put the link in the description, but the cliff notes of his tenure there, he saved the athletic program. It was in financial ruin. The budget was a mess. Though they were having success on the field in some sports, the overall trajectory of the athletic program as a whole was down. It was going to the gutter. They were going to go bankrupt. It was in financial ruin. So he made the very controversial and to this day polarizing decision to get rid of their top two most popular sporting programs. They got rid of football and they got rid of their number one, wrestling. They were the two programs that were eating the budget away the most without giving the appropriate returns to justify it. To this day, Nebraska at Omaha has a thriving athletic department that does not include those two sports. Some people are still very unhappy about this, but most will concede that this was a necessary move to save the athletic program as a whole. So that was a very tough decision that he had to make back in Nebraska at Omaha, which is where he was for about 11 years or so, maybe 12, forget the exact number, before Nebraska. And those are his two spots, those two places he's AD'd at before, if you will. So, like I said, the link to that whole story is in the description of this video, as well as the bio, his bio from the Nebraska Cornhuskers athletics page, where I get most of this info from. If you want to go read up on it more of the cold hard facts go there. But I think that's a pretty ballsy and impressive move to get rid of those very popular sporting programs, the hard decisions for the greater good of his program. Now, A&M, of course, is in no position close to that. A&M is financially fine everywhere, maybe without appropriate investment in certain areas, but not at risk. You need a man in charge that can make decisions like that. So I'll let you guys interpret that. To me, I look at it as a positive that he saved the program by making the tough decision. To me, that seems like a no-brainer, but at the time, it was, and to this day, very controversial. A couple more tidbits about his time at Nebraska. Men's basketball head coach Fred Hoiberg was hired under Alberts and failed to launch. In his first 3 seasons, I believe he won around 25 total games, 3 years combined. You think they'd be shown the door after that. Alberts held on to him, and this year, Hoiberg is the Big Ten co-coach of the year, and Nebraska is now looking at their first tournament appearance in quite a while. Not really a basketball program, but Alberts had the foresight to stay the course, let him set his culture, and got them to the next level. Now, I don't know if that exactly translates to what's going on in A&M's basketball program. Of course, Buzz Williams is in year 6 now. I've said on this channel before, I really like Buzz Williams. I like the culture he's instilled. Buzz Williams can't control the shooting woes of the team as much as you guys might like to believe that he can. Sometimes teams just can't shoot, man. Not saying it's a perfect situation with Buzz, but I do love Buzz as a leader of men, as a leader of the program. And if you're like me, even if things aren't working out, you really wish they would under Buzz Williams, the man. So maybe Alberts is the guy to navigate that program into the future as well, like he did at Nebraska. Like I said, I don't know if those are a one-to-one comparison, but I think it's a data point that we should download regardless. So overall, between his last 2 stops as an AD, and there are a bunch more things he did, but those are kind of the things in the forefront, the highlights, the spark notes, the headlines of his time at Nebraska and Omaha. I would say with a high level of confidence that he left both programs that he left in better condition than he found them. I don't think you can say the same about Ross Bjork at Ole Miss and A&M. I don't know if you can say the same about Scott Woodward at A&M. I think he has a chance to do the same thing at A&M. Now let's just get into how I feel about it and what I think he can do at A&M and how I think about the hire overall. So the way I was going into this AD search is totally in wait and see mode, and maybe this is a cop-out answer, but it's how I felt. Like I said, you got to see things develop with the AD. It's not something that you'll know after a couple of months. It's not something you'll know within a year. Maybe we'll see renovations get announced quickly. I don't know that, but I think the signs are really good. I don't think there are any overwhelming negatives with Trev Alberts' career thus far. I think the only thing you can look at is maybe how unlikable he was at ESPN, because a lot of people will tell you they didn't like him. He talked bad about A&M, but that was one of A&M's worst eras of its history in the early 2000s. So, I mean, there wasn't much to like for A&M at the time as a neutral bystander, and he's trying to be an entertainer. He's talking about sports. That's what you do. It's the Skip Bayless thing. You just try to make a statement, right? I'm not going to hold it against him. You might hold it against him. That's totally fine. I actually want to hear what you guys have to think, of course, because it's been a neutral response to this guy. Most people have been kind of how I am, and as the day developed, I think it became more positive as more things came to the forefront, more of his accomplishments. I really like what Mark Welsh said, that he is totally in line with the vision. And there was a statement by Trev Alberts that I want to bring up to you guys too. He said, "From my perspective, there has never been a more consequential time in history for higher education than the evolving landscape of intercollegiate athletics. Leadership matters more now than ever before. My interest in Texas A&M is not only due to its prestigious reputation, but also because of President Welsh's compelling vision in which I believe. Athletics can play a small but important role in helping Texas A&M achieve unprecedented success." So he sees the vision. He probably also sees a fat checkbook, but both things are very important in today's landscape. We know this. It's just the sad truth of it. Money moves things, but it's great to hear that he is in line with the vision that is set out upon him. I believe it had to be more than just money alone to make someone leave their alma mater. Oh, and by the way, he just got a pay raise that brought him up to around $2 million a year at Nebraska going forward. So he moved on from that to go to Texas A&M. That tells me it has to be a little bit more than money. This is a big decision for him. I think he sees the potential of Texas A&M as a athletic department. I think he sees potential athletic success and collegiate success for A&M for years to come. And I think A&M sees the same thing in him. So overall, I am not blown away by the AD hire. And I don't think I would have been blown away by any name that we got. But I don't see a lot of negatives here, guys. One thing I have seen is that Nebraska's program is still in the dumps. Program is still rock bottom. Sure. But the future looks a hell of a lot better than it did before he got there. And I'll leave you with that. So, guys, tell me how you feel about the AD hire. I just wanted to get on and give you my initial thoughts. I will see you guys on Thursday. Tomorrow if you're watching this on Wednesday. Tonight if you're watching it on Thursday. 8 p.m. call-in show. Call in. Tell me about the AD. Let's talk about A&M athletics overall. It's been a great couple of weeks. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, thanks and gig 'em.